Well, I had a question about um, the subject of uh, well, whole subject of non-duality when over a period of years I've experienced going in and out of um, realization or a good place, and it's when I've come to a place recently of just like um, you have mentioned it before, of like hopelessness,
Mm,
uh, like all the teachings um, become sort of meaningless,
mm,
and
yeah, that's a really painful place to come to. It's really painful, that hopelessness. Mm,
yeah, and then
it's really painful. It's
yeah,
one of the most
sort of
hardest places to be at, that hopelessness. It's actually a feeling in the solar plexus, so that's where it originates from. And its opposite side is that I can do it. And it's not necessarily suffering until seeking gets involved in it. Because it's appropriate sometimes to realize that you can't do something. Maybe when it goes into hopelessness, it goes into seeking. But it's appropriate to realize that feeling, sometimes when you have to give up and you can't do something. Like, so that's a normal human feeling. But then we um, get invested in that, and our identity becomes having stories to live for. Like, what is it that you're living for day to day? And the freedom comes when you're just living for the moment. You're just living for what's happening right now, nothing more. But most of the time, people need something to live for, whether it be kids, whether it be to earn money in the future, whether it to be successful, whether it to be good, or whatever story it is, because the consciousness is identified with the person, and their belief or their dynamic is that feelings are happiness, and feelings are affected by the pleasures that I receive from outside. So, or stories that I tell myself about who I am or what I am. So, and those stories affect my feelings in the end. And we believe that happiness is about having positive feelings. So, freedom is about having positive feelings, where it totally isn't. Freedom is about this energetic shift and this movement back into consciousness, which is stillness. And then the feelings oscillate in that, dependent on your karma of that body. And there's nothing wrong with all range of human emotions. None of them are unenlightened. I mean, there isn't really something as enlightenment and unenlightenment. It's just what happens is when the consciousness identifies with the person, then there becomes seeking to find happiness in the feelings. And this, to me, becomes suffering. When you are seeking to find happiness in your feelings, whereas really happiness is in the stillness of what's looking now. But that isn't a story. That can also become a story of hope for somebody. And so it's the solar plexus, which has maybe been overutilized in the past and oscillates between feeling hopeful and feeling hopeless. Also in the solar plexus is repressed anger, which adds to all of this. So repressed anger, and it goes that you repress your anger, so you repress your emotions, and then that anger turns into depression. It turns into frustration, and the frustration turns into depression. It's like a suppression of this very fiery energy. Like, anger is an appropriate human emotion. It's not appropriate to act out on people, but it's actually, like in Chinese medicine, they called it like fire, the fire that gets the food kicking, the fire that gets cooking, the fire that gets the body working. But the suffering comes when oh, well, no, actually put aside the suffering. So I just carry on with this. And the reason that we suppress emotions often is because our identity doesn't match up with what's happening externally. So we've got this idea of ourselves, and then we've got this idea of what we want to project. So then it's like a lot of our problems are actually relational problems with people. So it's like when we're in relationships, we're unable to express ourselves. But even when we're by ourselves, it can be like that. We often don't know our emotions, but that's how it begins, is that we're unable to express ourselves, and it's unsafe for us to express ourselves, and then we repress them, and then often we forget them. So we cut off a part of ourselves and we push it down. So this is what the solar plexus does, and then often that can turn into hopelessness, like it all gets muddled together. So you've got the two oscillating between hopeful and hopeless, and then you've got this repression of emotions, which is anger and frustration, and then depression. And the actual key to it is the recognition that that's not who you are, the recognition of consciousness. But sometimes these emotions and this energy is too intense, and so when they get triggered, the consciousness is automatically identified again with the person, and then there is a seeking in time. So it's then when you experience the in and out. So then when that happens, there has to be an exploration of what's happening in that area, because there's obviously intense emotions in there. So you have to explore that area and what's happening in it. How does that feel?
Yeah, that's exactly, you described exactly what it is. Yeah. And it's exactly.
Mm.
Yeah,
I think that, like, from working with you a few times, we haven't worked very much, I would suspect that you have problems boundary setting. And I do have reasons for saying that, but I won't say it. Like, there is things that I noticed in our sessions. And what that means is being able to express how you feel to other people. And able to express them what you want and what you don't want from them. You might not even really know what it is that you want and what you don't want from them. And so therefore it'll be in relation that you get triggered again into this feeling. And I can imagine that if this is true, this is just a hypothesis, I'm saying that word right? If that is true, then what it will do is eventually, the more you do that, it will begin to make you feel very hopeless. Because relationships is the fundamental of a society. And if you feel like you can't establish yourself in that, and establish your wants and needs, even if it's not a full consciousness of it, it will begin to make you feel hopeless. Because it's like it's the essence on the human level of what you are with your wants and needs. Like, that is the personality. Like, I think it's in Chinese medicine, they also say the personality comes from here. And then in Western psychology, they also say, because wants and needs also come from the solar plexus as well, like this putting up these boundaries. Then it's related to anger, it's complex. But in Western psychology, they also say the way the personality is formed is through choice. So it's through you being able to assert what you want and what you don't want. So this is differentiation. I don't know if I say that word right, sorry, it's my dyslexia. Becoming differentiated. So
I'd say differentiation.
Yeah, so that it's becoming that. And that is different from waking up. Like that is like the personality structure. So when somebody's crossing your boundary, you're able to say, no, I don't want that. Or yes, I do want that. And you're able to stand in it and not let somebody else bulldoze you through manipulation or other tactics. So, and most people don't have strong that, because we're living in a very traumatized society and it's been passed down generationally. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's
so then
it.
the solution to it is exploring that really exploring it, really getting to know it, getting to know your trigger points, getting to know what it is you want and don't want in relationships, and then expressing that. Like, one of the most important trauma healings is expressing to other people what you feel and what you want and what you don't want, and becoming skillful at doing this, because that actually begins to make you feel more safe with other people, and then you become more defined on the human level. That is not the same, though, as waking up, but that can maybe help that energy stop being so intense, which pulls consciousness back into the identification or creates the seeking again, which then makes identification. So freedom, like non-duality, is this energetic shift to who you are, which is the boundlessness that's experiencing all of this. When the seeking starts, so that energy in you maybe triggers the seeking, then the consciousness and the personality become intermeshed, so it feels like you are somebody. And that's what you call suffering. And when you're suffering, you feel small and you feel contracted and you feel inside the body. When you feel more happy, if you explore it, you'll realize you feel expanded, and that is because there is less identification with the body. It's not to do with your circumstance.
Yep. It's beautifully put. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's okay. So
Yeah.
my recommendation for it, even though it sounds like I'm giving prescription, where I'm really not, because you'll either do this or not do this. So it's not really that you have to do it or not. Either the energy will come up to do it. Is ironically, I would explore human relationships for that area. So explore relating to people. And that, I know that sounds really abstract and really far away from hopelessness, but I think they'll be interconnected.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful to speak to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lots of love.
lots of love. Bye.
Okay, bye.